Fellow Bouzoukists, hello and welcome to the practical method of Bouzouki playing. My name is Kyriakos Kakoulis, otherwise known as Ken Kallis, a Bouzoukist, a luthier, a restorer, and president of Kallis & Company International. You must have noticed that at the beginning of this videotape we began by saying hello fellow Bouzoukists instead of fellow Bouzouksides. The word Bouzoukist is the proper word for identifying our art, as the word guitarist is used to identify a guitar player. So from now on, I urge you to delete the word Bouzoukist from your vocabulary and instead use the word Bouzoukist. This series of videos, known as the practical method and techniques of Bouzouki playing, has been produced after a great deal of thought has been given to them in cooperation with one of the world's finest Bouzoukists, known as Mr. Leonidas Zafiris. During this process, we have concluded that we will concentrate mainly on technique, chords, scales, the practical application of Bouzouki playing, and not the theory of music, which is a complicated subject that may be taught through your local music schools. It is not our intention to compete with your local teachers, but rather to enhance their teaching materials through these tapes. We will take you through a step-by-step method by showing you simple exercises and progressing to the most advanced ones. Following that, we will show you the most popular Greek scales and their corresponding chords. Continuation to that, we will play popular Greek songs on those scales together with a taximi for each one of them. In conclusion, and in cooperation with Mr. Dino Karambelas, a well-known percussionist, we have recorded the most popular Greek rhythms played at lengthy durations for you to practice with. We are convinced that should you follow everything that's shown on these videotapes, you will, without a doubt, be able to perform on stage professionally. We thank you for investing in this series of videos, practical method and techniques of Bouzouki playing. Good luck. The flat surface of the Bouzouki is called the soundboard and is usually made out of spruce or fir. The quality of the sound depends on the quality of wood used. The round back part of the Bouzouki is called the belly, the bell, the cabana. This is designed in such a way to amplify sound. The tailpiece is a metallic attachment with small points protruding where the small loops of the string are attached to. The bridge is the thin piece of ebony that's placed right behind the sound hole, and the functions of it are to keep the strings raised a little from the surface of the belly, to determine the pitch of the notes, and to transfer the vibrations of the strings through the sound hole and through the belly. The decoration, or the placa, is designed to give the Bouzouki a better appearance, but it also is designed to protect the Bouzouki against damage when the player is picking. The harmonic hole, or the sound hole, is an opening which lies about 8 centimeters over the bridge. The sound produced by the strings enters the belly through the harmonic hole, being thus enriched and amplified back again. The neck is the long piece attached to the belly of the Bouzouki. This is where the fretboard is glued onto, and this is how the player moves his hands up and down to produce the notes he desires. The nut, which is made out of ivory or bone, is designed to keep the strings just above the fretboard, and it's placed at the top of the peg head. The machine heads, or the klidia as we call them in Greek, are the mechanism where the strings are looped onto, and this is how they're tuned, by turning the machine heads clockwise or counterclockwise. An 8-string Bouzouki consists of 4 pairs of strings. The first one being the D string, the second the A string, the F string the third, and the C string the fourth. D string, A string, F string, and C string. Please learn this sequence as it is very important. Now let's talk about the picks or penna available. You have a choice of small, medium or large, and a texture of soft, medium soft or hard. We would suggest you use a medium penna with medium softness or stiffness. This will determine the type of sound you produce. We're back in the studio and we're almost ready to begin our exercises. Before we begin exercising, however, I'd like to introduce you to a warm-up procedure which you should follow every time you play your bouzouki. First of all, I'd like to ask you all to give the joints of your fingers a good rub down, like this, in order to get your blood circulating. It's important to circulate the blood so you don't develop tendinitis in the future. Spend about 15-20 seconds doing this, and then work on your stretches. By this I mean you stretch your fingers to a point where you feel the stretch but it does not hurt. Hold the stretch for about 15 seconds again and move on to the next set of fingers. And so on. Once this is finished, I would recommend that you rub both the left and right hand wrists like this for about 15 to 20 seconds. Again, it does ensure better circulation of your blood on both hands. And also stretch your palms as I'm doing now and hold it for about 15 seconds on each hand. And then on the other hand. And you should do this about 8 to 10 times before your practice. Now let's go back to the studio and begin our exercises. Now we will spend a few moments talking about how to hold the bouzouki properly in playing position, sitting down, as Leonidas is doing, holding it against his body and resting it on his lap. He will use the dots at the top of the instrument to guide him to where he is at any given time. Please learn those dots and their corresponding notes as it is very important. We will now talk about positioning your left hand on the fretboard properly. It is very important to have your wrist bent in a certain way so as to give you the flexibility to move your fingers comfortably. Your thumb should be between your first and second finger as Leonidas is demonstrating. Your wrist should not be bent in any other way but just how as Leonidas is showing now. This is improper and it may damage your ligaments. So leave your thumb freely to touch the back of the fretboard and move your fingers freely. And now I want to discuss the most crucial part of bouzouki playing. That is the right hand technique and holding the penna right, or the pick. As Leonidas demonstrates, his index finger is curled up and his thumb is right over the pick. His other three fingers are also curled up to support the index finger. Now the right hand technique, Leonidas would show you that the wrist is what moves the pen up and down and not the entire arm as most people tend to do. So learn to play with your wrist. We are now ready to begin our first exercise. Before we do so, I would like to introduce you to a few items that you need to have at every practice session. One being a chromatic tuner, similar to this or any other type of tuner that your local music store carries. It is important to be in tune at every practice session, so tune your instrument before beginning the practice. The second thing you need is a metronome such as this or a similar type again. Metronome helps you practice in proper time and rhythm. Once you've learned your exercise well, you could increase your speed to any speed you wish that's comfortable to you. and you increase it as following. Okay, and the third thing you need is a mirror. You must do all your exercises and practice in front of a mirror. This would enable you to see your left and right hand positioning, as well as the positioning of the instrument on your lap. Now let's have a look at the first exercise, which is basic picking exercise, and you will know that Leonidas is picking down, then up, and so on. Do it slowly and increase your speed as you learn the exercise. Let's go back to the studio. The second exercise that we're going to show you is similar to the first exercise. The only difference, however, is the picking. In this exercise, you begin picking upwards, then down, up, down, and so on. So let's go back to the studio again. In this exercise, we will show you the coordination between the left and the right hand. Note that the picking pattern of the right hand is down and then up, etc. We would also note here that the left hand movements are accented, so you could see the pattern of the fingers. In reality, however, you should not lift your fingers off the fretboard by more than a few millimeters. Let's go back to the studio. This exercise is similar to exercise 3, the only difference being that we begin with the fourth finger instead of the first finger of the left hand. Take your time learning the exercises and don't proceed to the next one until you feel comfortable with this one. This exercise is similar to the previous exercises shown, however, we will now perform it on all 4 strings. I suggest you use both picking patterns with this and all the other exercises we will show you and have shown you, and take your time learning them. Let's see what Leonidas is doing with this exercise. This exercise is again similar to exercise 5, but now Leonidas would show you the picking pattern up, down, and so on. Also watch the progression of the finger movements of the fretboard.